Radar Update. My name is Daniel Vallis from InformedChristians.com, a website ministry devoted to discerning current events from a Christian and biblical perspective. This is a warning, but it is not a prediction. I do not know the future, but I can show you what is going on right now and the shadows and patterns that Scripture tells us to look for. And we've definitely seen a lot over the past few days, weeks, and months, and even the past year. We've been studying a lot and just watching the prophetic events unfold, as well as the celestial events as well. And I just want to let you know that I finally have this poster posted on the website now as well. It's in the Exodus 2 section. You can find a link in the description box. You'll just have to scroll down a little bit on the Exodus 2 page. It's toward the bottom, along with all the other resources that are related to this and suggested articles that relate to some of the subjects as well. And right now we find ourselves at a very important time toward the end of Christ's first coming, with the pattern and shadow of ascension falling on the 4th and 5th, depending on what time zone you're in, but primarily the 5th with the daylight period as well. And we've seen a lot of activity in the heavens with the celestial signs, but we've also seen the enemy rallying their troops outside the wall, so to speak, because they know the gates are about to be opened. They are about to be unrestrained. And that's the messages they've been giving out, and that's parallel to the biblical shadows that we've seen in the prophetic time we find ourselves at right now. And we talk about all this in our Exodus 2 booklet. And especially with the celestial signs. I just went out tonight and looked at it. Very clear night here in Alabama. And just reminded again of the reality of the celestial clock and the timing and how it's particularly been engaging the shadows and patterns that we've been looking at during this time too as well. And that's been calling our attention to a soberness and a vigilance that we need to be ready. The enemy has been making sure their disciples are ready, and they've had a lot in place. Ever since New Year's Day, they had a lot in place, and just basically then telling their disciples that the stage was all set, the curtain was rising, they are ready. And now they're putting out even more blatant and urgent messages of war, destruction, and shedding of blood and the persecution that they know is about to be unrestrained. The book of Revelation tells us that. So they've been sending out a lot of warnings, and the church has had so many warnings, even in just a few hours on May 5th. We have a whole event, at least here in America, called Wake Up America. And we talked the other day about all the signals that even Satan is giving out, giving legal notice to the church, telling them, hey, you need to be waking up. You need to be waking up. As Christians, especially watching these videos, we have no excuse of not getting ready for our Lord's return. The question is, are we? If we're not, then we are a grade A hypocrite. The enemy is so busy for the one they love. Are we busy for the one we say we love? Now, we've talked a lot about the occult activity during the past few days and how they've been especially busy at this time of year getting ready for a birth. They know their work, their mystery of iniquity is about to give birth to all their efforts, especially at this time, because they know the prophetic importance of this time. And they've been pointing Satan's disciples' attention toward the May Day in conjunction with the Nimrod, Hitler type and all the events that we've looked at before. But a lot was pointed toward Beltane, May Day. And I found out today that May 1st is typically known as May Day, and that is when it is typically commemorated and oftentimes falls on that day. But I found out today that Beltane is the anglicized name for the Gaelic May Day festival. Most commonly it is held on 1st of May, or about halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. And that's very important. So on May 1st is when it's most commonly held, and most of the pagan groups and witchcraft groups and all that, that's when they've observed it and had their big bonfires and their fertility rites and a bunch of other things related to the Green Man and everything. So that was on May 1st, so just a few days ago. But if you calculate it by how technically they observe it on their technical calendar, then it's actually in a few hours. It's on the 4th of May this year, according to their technically correct calendar of actually putting it between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. So we're still in a very high time of occult importance, and we should not be surprised if we find similar events to May Day happening on the 4th as well. The enemy is still very busy, and it's very interesting that there's this lag with almost 2 May Days that they're celebrating at this exact same time of great prophetic importance and celestial importance as well. And we've talked about the church fire, the very suspicious church fire that was on May 1st, May Day, a day connected with bonfires and fires, and we talked about the Phoenix references as well. Very suspicious. This was a signal, so we should not be surprised. We don't know what will happen, but we should not be surprised if we find similar events that rhyme on the 4th as well, because they will also be observing that day as very important as well. But the 4th is also interesting because it is nicknamed Star Wars Day, from a play on May the 4th, May the Force. And so it's interesting that this whole connection and revival and just bringing to people's minds the whole concepts of the parable, Star Wars, and the war in heaven and the fallen angels and all of that, especially the Force awakening. It's interesting how all this is being pulled up right here at this threshold where we are at right now, right in the occult mindset when they're awaiting a rebirth to bring back up to the forefront, so to speak, the Force awakens and the Force and Star Wars, the war in the heavens. They're bringing all that up right now, right? We're on the threshold of the shadow pattern of ascension. We've seen all the other illusions they've been making that they know Jacob's ladder concepts are going to come into play with the Mayday and the pandemonium and ascending to the heavens. We've seen all those patterns. Very suspicious. Now today in the news, President Obama to create first national monument to gay rights. President Obama is set to make history by naming the first ever national monument to the gay rights movement in the United States. The White House reports the Washington Post is expected to name a small portion of the New York City's Greenwich Village as a national monument recognizing the birthplace of the modern gay and LGBTQ rights movement in the United States. He's expected to do this possibly next month, coinciding with the gay pride festivals as well, but he's obviously made his mark of where his interests lie, and it's very sad when we see this. Christians, we need to wake up. The hour is so late. The world is getting darker every day and hour. Don't live for this world. Live for Christ. Live for things of eternity. We have reminders every day that this world is not our home. This world is not our home. We talked about how just in the past few hours and days, there's been significant mentions and prominent mentions by prominent leaders of booms and mic drops. And it's very suspicious and eyebrow-raising that's happening all of a sudden. Obama did his at the Correspondents' Dinner. The Queen and the Prince, they did a mic drop too as well in responding to another one that Obama did in the video. And then today, Justin from Canada, he also put out a mic drop boom as well. So in just a few handful of days, 4 different booms from 3 very important leaders in the world. UK, US, and Canada. Does this not strike you as suspicious, especially in light of everything else we've seen? And Pop Goes the Weasel and the other warnings we've seen. And it also reminded me of the Google Drop the Mic that they put out on April 1st, which was the same day that the dice and cat and lion reference were set up in Trafalgar Square. All of these drop the mic booms are connected. They're not just some childish, juvenile gesture. They're all connected. It's a warning. They know the red horse of war that they've been lighting up all their buildings about, the beast is about to be released. Speaking of fire, the Holocaust Memorial Day in Israel is May 5th. And keeping in mind the Jewish concept of when the day starts, it does technically start on the evening on May 4th. So consider in your mind how all these events are overlapping with all the booms and the fires and the May Day true event on May 5th also coinciding with Holocaust. Beltane, which is notable for fires and bonfires, landing on the same day as Holocaust, which gets its name from fire. We've been looking at the calendar of events and just seeing all the biblical patterns and just how things have been coming together. And we've even talked about with the celestial clock pausing right in this gap. And how, just from a biblical perspective in the celestial signs, it looks like attention is about to be drawn back to Israel. And major events prophetically are going to happen soon, it appears. I do not know the future. I do not know what the days and hours hold. But from what we see, we must be sober. We must be vigilant. We must be ready. We must wake up now before the bridegroom gets here. We must rise up now before the bridegroom gets here. Others have talked of the iPet goat video in connection with some of the events lately with the burning church and how it seems very suspicious and even seems to have been pointed to as a warning sign, something to look for, because there's a definite reference to it a house burning with some semblance to a church. It's really a magic circle squared in a triangle there. But there are visual clues that a lot of people have looked at before and see being played out right now in this exact same time. This video came out in June 2012, but it looks like it, along with all the other things we've seen too as well, preparing Satan's disciples for visual clues to look for, just like the white rabbit, so they know timing of other events. And there's other scenes in the video that relate to what we've been studying too, with the purple and the evolution and going to a higher evolutionary level and the seed of Satan, and evolution goes all in context with the peculiar children and all the other videos that we talked about before. And they have visual clues in their video and other media that we've looked at, alerting them to when they need to be sober and vigilant. And also in the video, they make a big reference to Osama bin Laden, which is very interesting because the anniversary of his death, quote unquote, happened on May 1st. So you have a notable church landmark burning on the same day as his anniversary date, which is also connected, just through the mainstream story, with the Twin Towers. So very eyebrow raising and very suspicious. But then it's also interesting that the strong connection of the church collapsing in the same video as well. And it's a picture of organized religion being crushed when the Antichrist comes onto the scene. But I was reminded of the Alice in Wonderland scene that's in the video as well. And other people talk about it, but they do have a wrong interpretation of it. She's in a magic circle, and casting the apple out from the underground is casting a spell. That's what it is. This is produced by the enemy. It's very dark in nature, but they're preparing Satan's disciples. But this one scene of Alice with the white rabbit in the background should catch our attention, especially when we've been looking at the timekeeper and all the white rabbit, the multiple white rabbit references. So this should jog our memory of, oh, wait a minute, there's a white rabbit in here, and that's a visual clue. And especially when we see the white rabbit in connection with pointing up to May 1st, the same day as Osama bin Laden and the events of 9/11 supposedly, and then the house church burning as well. Very suspicious. We know there is a connection here. But it's interesting, on this scene of the Alice type with the white rabbit, once they come to the scene, they darken the scene and bring a spotlight on her, but they have a faint spotlight on the white rabbit, so you know, pay attention to the white rabbit. The white rabbit's very important. We've talked about that before. They're always bringing attention to the white rabbit because that's connected to the doorways opening. So they bring attention to the white rabbit, but then at the same time, when you watch the video, they're also highlighting the exit as well. And they're showing how both of these are connected. The white rabbit, which is in connection with the gateways opening, is also connected with Snare knows. It is also connected with the ready bride exiting, making her escape. But that's only the bride that is awake, that has risen up and has stopped dreaming. They are going to make an exit. And Satan has been putting out multiple messages along this theme because they know this goes hand in hand with the gateways opening. So the same timing of the white rabbit is connected to the church leaving. They are just waiting for that falling away when the ready bride is snatched away. And then they will be unrestrained. And we talk about this in the articles linked in the description box in our Exodus 2 section. But the enemy has been multiple pointing out this is connected, and there's another white rabbit, which instantly reminds Satan's disciples to pay attention to things that they would understand in that video as well. Satan knows what time it is. The gates are about to be opened. There's about to be a revealing. That's why he's gathering his army together. Do you know what time it is? And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to wake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. We need to ask ourselves right now, am I doing this? Am I rising up from what I have been doing? From maybe a lucid dream of living for certain dreams and pursuing certain things that really do not matter at this point? Am I still trying to dream? Or have I woken up? Have I risen up from out of sleep and attended to things that do matter? Have I cast off things that I need to? Have I put on things in my life that I need to, that Scripture tells us to? Now, right now is the time when we need to double check this. Don't put off double checking this until you know for sure. It is high time, which means we are almost out of time. Luke 17, we've talked about it before, but verse 32, remember Lot's wife. Jesus told his disciples plainly, when he comes, during the days of Noah and Lot, when people aren't even suspecting that judgment's about to fall, it's going to be very important that Christ's disciples, his children, are living like he's coming back and are living for things of eternity, not this world. This world is not your home. Don't live for it. Don't get captivated with it. Don't spend your time and money and energy pursuing the things of this world at this moment, because it's not going to matter. Remember Lot's wife. Christ told his disciples plainly he was coming when the world had the life goes on mentality and they were pursuing things of the world, and they were completely ignorant of the signs that were all around them and the warnings that were all around them. They looked out on the TV, they looked out on the street and the stores, and there's food on the shelves, the economy hadn't collapsed, people were going to ball games, people were living as though life goes on. And Christ told his disciples 4 different times, I'm coming when the world is in that mindset, when they are still dreaming. And he reminded his disciples, don't be dreaming when I come back. Pay attention to the time. Be sober. Be vigilant. Be ye ready. Therefore be ye also ready. For in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. We don't know what will happen in the days and hours ahead, but we have a high expectation. But what we do know, we should do and give attendance to. We should make ourselves ready. Because we do know the hour is very late. We do know the time. Therefore, we must make ourselves ready. We have heard the trumpet call at midnight. We must rise up and go out to meet the bridegroom with our life, with our action, with our pursuits, with our heart. If you haven't yet, check out our resources in the description box. Exodus 2, the bride goes to the king's house, of how a bride prepares for her wedding day, and just what we should be doing as Christians every single day to live our life with our actions and our heart and our pursuit, to pursue the things that Christ wants us to. That will bring a smile to his face. And as we are preparing to meet our bridegroom, let us live like the bride of Christ. The voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a roe or a young hart. Behold, he standeth behind her wall. He looketh forth at the windows, showing himself through the lattice. My beloved spake and said unto me, Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle-dove is heard in our land. The fig tree putteth forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grape give a good smell. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. Is Christ your beloved? Is your heart and life rising up to be ready for the bridegroom? Do you love him? Or do you love the things of this world? Our beloved has done so much for us, and showed his love for us in so many ways. We know he's coming. Therefore, let us be watching, let us be sober, let us be vigilant, let us be shining bright, pursuing the things of Christ, with Christ being seen in us. And let us strive to be ready, serving Christ first and highest above all else. Maranatha.